Right, we're on page 4. So we see that to become a tzaddik, according to the Rambam, it's hard. Meaning it looks easy, but it's hard. Meaning you don't have to fly on a magic carpet, but you have to keep all the mitzvot in the Torah. Keeping all the mitzvot in the Torah is a difficult thing for anybody, but for a person, this is the goal. The goal is to reach the point where I keep what's written inside of the Torah. Now, technically, we have an easier time today than we used to have. In the 9 days, there's nobody Mikdash. Many of us don't live in the land of Israel.
270.
So we're very much like off the hook with many mitzvot.
270 mitzvot.
270 for every person?
For people who live
In America, okay, very good.
take out the Eretz and take out the Beit HaMikdash.
See, we're almost not even Jewish. That's how it is in America. It says, the Gemara says that somebody who lives in America, in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel, domeh lemi she'en lo Elohah. It's as if he doesn't have a God. We're not. The Gemara also says that somebody who lives outside of Israel, kilu oved avodah zara b'tahara. He serves idols, but a kosher kind of idols. That's what the Gemara says. It's avodah zara, but it's tahara, it's tahor, it's pure avodah zara.
He is making fun of him.
Yeah, but that's a problem. We have to really know. Living in Israel is a mitzvah of the Torah. It's the basis. Al haaretz v'al hamazon, al haaretz v'al hamechia v'kala, al haaretz, everything. We're always speaking about the land of Israel. So, according to the Rambam, Rabbi Avraham, a person has to reach a point where he's keeping the Torah mitzvot. So let's see the next part. Umisha mekel rosh. Somebody who becomes lightheaded. Mekel rosh means, it's like an expression to mean ignoring. Somebody who ignores, neglects b'chukot elu, these laws. Nikra rasha. He's called a rasha, an evil person. Uposhea. Poshea means like somebody who is a criminal, does something wrong on purpose. The word negligence is not it's not the best way to explain it. Vera, he's considered evil. Umerea, and someone who's harmful. Ushar kinuyim she'en tzorich lekchakram ulva'aram, says Rabbi Avraham, and all kinds of other names which we don't have to go into and explain them. So somebody who says, listen, the mitzvot, I don't care about the mitzvot. I don't, they're not important to me. This person, and this is much of Am Yisrael, is technically considered a rasha, a poshea, a bad people. Do you mind if I turn on the fan? Is it okay? Do you want to know?
Yeah,
No, okay. וכל שם מן השמות הללו יחול על האדם לפי כובד עוונו וזדונו. קלות ראשו או חוסר אמונתו. Obviously there are different levels of Rashayim. You're not going to tell me that the person who is a little bit lenient in one halakha is the same person as the one who drives on Shabbat and eats pigs on Yom Kippur. It's not the same thing. Everyone is going to be on a different level based on his actions. Just like a tzaddik, there are different levels of tzaddikim, different levels of chassidim. The same thing here. And he says here two things. Kalut rosho, negligence of mitzvot. And the second one is choser emunato, a lack of belief. What's the difference between negligence of mitzvot and lack of belief? What's the difference?
The difference between Christianity and Judaism.
Explain.
It was the same order.
A lot of belief. Everybody say we believe.
Are there people who don't believe?
Yeah.
So I mean, there are two levels here. There's believing in Hashem and doing the mitzvot.
We'll take this with the question.
Let's say, for example,
Better to live in a
Just believing is not enough.
very good. But what if a person does mitzvot but doesn't believe? There are a lot of people like this.
Yeah, I think there's a mahloket in Gemara about is believe in Hashem a mitzvah or not.
Right. So for us it's a mitzvah. The Rambam counts it as a mitzvah.
Right. Just go ahead now. We'll adjust it.
But the truth is that there are people who really believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, deep down inside. When it comes to their actions, they're lacking. And there are people who have good actions, but they're lacking in emunah in Hashem. I'll tell you what I once saw. Rav Peretz once told us They asked him about Jews who don't keep Shabbat. If you're allowed to drink the wine that they touch. No, halakha, according to us, yes. To most people, yes. Not like what other rabbis tell you. The guy who comes to Bet Knesset in his car and drives to your house for Shabbat dinner is not okay. It's asur to do that. It's absolutely prohibited to do it. But where is he driving to? To hear Kiddush. So he's not a person who doesn't believe in Hashem. So Rav Peretz told us there were some people that don't keep Shabbat, that he would drink the wine that they touch, because they believe in Hashem. And some people who keep mitzvot, but they don't really believe in Hashem. So they would look religious, but he wouldn't drink the wine that they touch. Emunah in Hashem is a big deal, but notice he puts it here, first keeping mitzvot, also believing in Hashem. They're a package, you need both. Unfortunately, in our religious world, the more religious you are, the less you talk about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can be in a yeshiva all day long, you don't hear about Hashem anything. Because you're busy about halachot, you're busy about philosophy, you're busy about Kabbalah, you're busy whatever. You're not thinking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Emunah is also very important. אך הנכון שיקרא רשע כי עוול הוא עושה באשר איננו ממלא את חובותיו לרבו. He says it's the most fitting term to call a person who's negligent in mitzvot is rasha, an evil person or an unjust person. It's the opposite of a tzaddik. So if tzaddik comes from the word tzedek, which means righteousness, then the word rasha, which is the opposite, doesn't necessarily mean evil. Rather, what's the opposite of just? Unjust. It's a good definition of the word. Says Rabbeinu Avraham, the best term is a person who's a rasha, because that's the most unjust. Hashem says, listen, I created you. I created the world. I'm giving you life. I'm giving you food. I'm giving you drink. I'm giving you air. I'm asking you to just do a few things for me. That person doesn't do it, is a rasha. He's unjust. He's going against the basic justice of the world. And then there's a second half.
This applicable to Jews.
No, also non-Jews have an obligation to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to follow. Muslims are also non-Jews. What do they become now?
I don't know what they are.
Today in the morning I heard a Muslim comedian. Somebody sent me about him. Yeah, he was a Muslim comedian. And he said, the only difference between the Jews and the Muslims is the Jews were chosen by God and the Muslims were chosen by the FBI. Now, I can't say the joke, but he was very funny. I have to say, regardless of his religion, he was a good comedian. Somebody sent, he was talking about Israel. I don't know what they wanted me to... So...
The problem is they are not successful.
So we say that there's a second problem, though, with somebody who's a rasha, and this is something we might not think about. And that is the damage that a person does to themselves when they're a rasha. We think that, hey, he's just bad to God, you know? He doesn't keep Shabbat, he doesn't keep kosher, he doesn't put on tefillin, he doesn't have a mezuzah in his door, he doesn't say modani in the morning, he doesn't say tefillah, he's just bad to Hashem. Says Rabbeinu Avraham, you have to look, there's another thing that he's doing that's unjust, that's evil. Listen to what he says. Ve'inenu mesapek lenafsho hasichlit et ha'ra'ui la lefi shlemuta. He's not providing the rational part of his soul with all it needs to become complete. Now we're going to see later on in the Rambam that there's 5 parts to the soul. Rabbeinu Avraham is going to tell us. 5 parts, and the highest part is the rational part. So what does rational mean? What does neshama? Well, we're going to get there when we get there, B'ezrat Hashem. But for right now, we have an obligation to know that when we keep Torah mitzvot, it's also good for our neshama. When we're far away from Hashem, it's like taking away your source of life from you. It's really a person's damaging themselves. And you don't have to go so far. You don't have to get so spiritual or Kabbalistic to figure this out. Look at your average person on the street. What are you doing with your life? Why do you wake up in the morning? What's your goal? You're gonna... What? Have a good breakfast. They'll tell you things like, live today like there is no tomorrow. Could be because there's no tomorrow, because today and tomorrow is no different. What do you want to do when you're retired? My grandfather made Aliyah from Yemen. My great-grandmother, Aliyah Shalom, passed away at 104 years old. Working in a field. because in Yemen there was no retirement fund. You don't have a retirement fund. You put away your savings. You work till you die. That was the way it worked. He came to Israel. The problem with the Yemenites was that nobody had real birth certificates. Go figure, some desert in Yemen where they had to get out of Yemen fast. So they came to Israel, and in Yemen they got married very young. 14, 15, 13 people got married. So my grandfather came to Israel. He was already married. He was 15 years old. But they didn't believe him in Israel that he was 15 and he was married. So they wrote in his passport that he was 25.
They just changed his date.
They made his date. Yes, I said, can you prove you're 15? No, I can't prove I'm 15. But I know I had my bar mitzvah. I know that. So you're 25.
You're 25 now.
When my grandfather wanted to go change it, later as, the 60s, 70s, when things started to develop, they said, you fool. In Israel, retirement age is, 65. Now you're going to retire when you're 55. What's the big deal? Just retire 10 years earlier. And it's true, he worked for the military and for the area, for the municipality his whole life. And he went to retirement 10 years early. So he was 55 instead of 65. They paid him a pension. And he told me that in Yemen they didn't have Gan Eden. But in Israel they had Gan Eden because there was a kollel for people who were retired. From the morning till the nighttime they learned Torah. They have different rabbis that teach them the Gemara, Chumash, Halakha. My grandfather, from the day he retired, he was 55 and he passed away, I don't know what age, and 20 years later, 30 years later. Every day of his life he was in kollel. Learning Torah. So where else can you do that in the world?
Yeah, the documents my father-in-law has says born January 1st.
Because they didn't know. They just made up a date.
Yeah.
I think all my ancestors did that too. They didn't know the exact date when they were born. They just kind of
Guessed, right. Who knows? There's certain things in it. By the way, you learn from here. I want to tell you what you learn. I know it makes the Litvish people happy when I say this. We, Sfaradim, celebrate birthdays. The Ben Ish Chai writes it's important to celebrate birthdays. The Ashkenazi tradition, though, is that it's forbidden to celebrate birthdays.
Maybe you wanted people to celebrate.
The reason, because the only person in the whole Torah you find that celebrated their birthday, Paro. Yeah, Paro is the only person in the whole Torah that celebrated his birthday. And there's a midrash, I heard, I didn't see it, that Paro had a cake with candles on it. And that is why many Jews have cakes without candles on them. Now, again, I didn't see the midrash, so I'm just, as they say, the little midrash says. I don't know if it actually says, but the little one says. And I can tell you that
And he was watching the movies.
while he was right, there was a birthday, they had a piñata, the whole thing. So, so what happened there was the Lubavitch Rebbe made a big deal about celebrating birthdays. It's a day to bless people. It's a day to take on a new mitzvah. It's a day to all kinds to get on aliyah on your birthday. But what do you see from all these stories, and not just from Sephardic countries, also from Ashkenazi countries, that most people didn't know their birthday?
So how did they know? So they probably knew what parsha they were born under, or
probably.
How did they forget bar mitzvah? I'll tell you the truth. In most countries, bar mitzvah wasn't something that you saw. In Yemen, for example, at 5 years old, about you start wearing a talit. At 6 years old, you start to read the Torah in public.
so it's whenever you're mature enough. To do
At
it,
8 or
so
9,
you did.
10, you start putting on tefillin. So what happens when you're in bar mitzvah? I don't know. Then you could be the chazan. I mean, nothing really changed.
So it's really based more on maturity.
They base more on maturity, also physical characteristics that change. That's pretty much when people determined if somebody was bar mitzvah or not. So what you see from this that a lot of people didn't know their birthday. So it must be that we didn't celebrate our birthdays forever and ever and ever, as much as we would have liked to believe it. A lot of times people knew, for example, around which holiday they were born. Like in Moroccan tradition, a lot of the people named Pesach is because they were born around Pesach.
Yeah.
Somebody once said, if I was going to be born in January, you're going to call me Januar? Like, what would you call me? But a lot of times they had such things. Let's finish this paragraph. So what he says is that a person doesn't realize that when they're disconnected from Torah and mitzvot, they're hurting themselves more than anything else. They think, hey, it's just between me and God. I'm worried about you. You don't have a relationship with yourself. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing. You said have a good breakfast, right? You look at the world. What are you going to do when you retire? You're going to go to kollel? No. You're going to sit in some old age home and watch TV, and your brain is going to fry, and then you're going to die young. That's what's going to happen. You have to say, look, we're not like that. When we say every day in the tefillah, we say, Baruch Eloheinu shebra'anu l'chvodo. Blessed is Hashem who created us for His honor. V'hivdilanu min hatoim. He made us separate from all those who make a mistake. V'natan lanu Torat emet. And He gave us a true Torah. V'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. He gave us a life of eternity. It's a whole different perspective on the world. You have to be very proud of having it. Most of the world doesn't have it. They don't have fulfillment of their neshama. You know, there was once a rabbi, I read him recently, a big Talmid Chacham, who said that the reason why the Jews never taught Torah publicly was because if we did, the whole world would become Jewish. I know that sounds funny, right? Because most people are like, yeah, you're going to tell me that, right? I'm going to run away. But the truth is, if someone really, if you would have learned Torah, let's say from Rav Kook, I don't know, from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, you learned Torah from Chacham Ovadia, there's no chance in the world that you wouldn't run after it. And
yeah,
so,
that's true. Yeah, I'm sure. Like if just pick any 5 goyim on our block and just
send them to. No, it could. You don't know. You don't know what inspiration, or just to see the character traits on such a person. I don't know if you've ever seen the Gedolim. Have you ever seen Rav Chaim Kanievsky before? Have you ever seen? They have a video. You can go on YouTube. Put in Rav Elyashiv learning. I love Shalom. He passed away, but Rav Elyashiv, 104 years old, sitting at a table. It's a 30-minute video. Just Rav Elyashiv going like this.
Flip, flip, flip.
With the pages. And you see a person like such refinement, such character, such yashut. You see Rabbi, what's his name, Rav Steinman. I don't know how old Rav Steinman is. Around 100, close to there. It's an interesting thing. He's in Bnei Brak. Rav Steinman had, there's a big problem in Israel with the schools. A lot of problems in Israel, in America also. But in schools, especially, like, even if it happens in New York, happens in New Jersey, wherever you have a religious community, schools start to become this country club that you have to work very hard to get into. It's not a community service that they owe to the community that people should come to the school. It's very selective. Like, you can only get into the school if your father doesn't have a laptop and your mother doesn't own a cell phone with internet and your brother, he wears a black hat when he sleeps, and the sister, she has to wear bulletproof stocking, all kinds of things, they come up with it. Or else, you can go to preschool. And it's like one of those, because the Play-Doh might become tameh. I don't know what's going to happen. What?
It's happening
In Muncie? Okay, all the places where Jews are.
That's not very attractive.
So what happened was that this man came to Rav Steinman. He's the rabbi of a school, a yeshiva. And there's a video. You can put it on YouTube, Rav Steinman Cheder. Shows you what we do. We watch all kinds of YouTube videos about rabbis. So Rav Steinman, they came to him and said, Rabbi, there's a couple, they're both divorced and they got remarried. So we're already worried about their marriage. This is what it's telling Rav Steinman. They said, and they have these 2 boys. And the 2 boys, they weren't raised like us exactly. And they want to put their kids in our school. But we think it might be a bad influence on the other boys. Rav Steinman says, why? Well, because of the parents. What do parents have to do with that? And the guy kept saying things, maybe they're not as religious, maybe they're not as this. And he said, what does the Rosh Yeshiva say? What's your answer? And Rav Steinman says, close to 100 years old. Clear as a whistle. Rav Steinman bangs the table. And he says, Gaive! 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 3 times he starts screaming. It means ego. 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 He's screaming at them. I said, no, Rebbe, what we mean is, and he says, Gaive! He says, do you know where I went to school? He said, I was with the Brisker Rav in school. And Brisker was like the old rabbis of the last generation. He said, do you know what kind of people were in our class? He said, look at us. Nothing happened to us. He said, you are just working with ego. You want your school to look special. You want to... He said, that's going to do it for you? He said, that's not Judaism. It's Gaiva. He said. And he told him to leave.
Wow.
And you see their straightforwardness. You realize that these are not people that are... One day they're like this, one day they're like that, the next day they don't know what they're saying. Straight. Just last night I called Arav Peretz. And we spoke about a few things. Tisha B'Av, I know I'm on record, so I'm being careful what I say. I don't know if you noticed last year, but we don't really say the Kinot in our community on Tisha B'Av. There's like hundreds of poems you're supposed to be reading on Tisha B'Av, after Arvit, after Shacharit.
Only Ashkenazi poems? I thought
No, Sfaradim also. No, I'm saying in our community, meaning
really
this community.
The Ashkenazis were like the tongue twisters.
Right.
Very
well,
hard.
like Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur
You're
also.
supposed to go back to the verse in the page before, but you can never find it in the chorus.
Right, so I got a Moroccan version of the keynote here. But I'll tell you the truth. The truth is that I don't do them, and I'll tell you why. Unless you are very good with the Hebrew language, not a person who could read Hebrew and understand Hebrew. Unless you're like an expert in Hebrew language, it's It's like it's poetry. That's what it is. Unless you're good, it's like reading a bunch of gibberish. And so someone last year said, "Oh, Rabbi, maybe you should say the keynote." I said, "It's an hour and a half. I'm going to add to the tefillah. People are not going to understand what they're saying." I said, "I'd rather give a class about the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash and accomplish the same thing." And so I asked Rav Peretz, because I always want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And Rav Peretz said, it's such an obvious thing that giving a class about the Beit HaMikdash is more important than reading songs that nobody understands about the Beit HaMikdash. But that's a straight mind says such a thing. Somebody else says, "Oh, tradition, you got tradition this and tradition that," and then all that's left of Judaism is matzah balls. So Baruch Hashem, the Rabbeinu Avraham is telling us,
From a box.
Rabbeinu Avraham is saying that your neshama needs halakha, your neshama needs Torah, needs something to guide it, to make sure that it's straight. The last sentence, Asher lederech ha'am hine be'arnu et rashei yikareh b'shlosha halakim ha'kodmim. These are the essential parts of the common road. To know halakha, to follow halakha, and not to not follow halakha.